guys, what a fantastic day we've had demonstrating here in Manchester against the Tories. But of course, that is a little symbol of the potential power that our movement has. And what we've got to talk about seriously is how we actually pull that power together to actually achieve some change and actually put a stop to what the government is doing. One of the key debates in the movement at the present time is the trade union bill. And interestingly, I think it has sparked some of the sharpest debates in the TUC for many, many years. You might be surprised to hear there's very rarely votes on the TUC General Council. We've seen the first such vote in recent days. And what lies behind that is the question of how you challenge the trade union bill. So the starting point for some people was to go out and do opinion polling, and that opinion polling apparently found out that large numbers of people thought that actually some of what the Tories were doing made sense. Some of us on the TUC General Council said, okay, opinion polls might be useful as a tool, but we don't start out from where people are currently. We start out from what we think is necessary, what's the necessary. And our job is to change public opinion. And we've used the analogy that this is a civil rights movement. Well, if you went back to 1963 and did an opinion poll in the United States, you might find that actually large swathes of public opinion were against civil rights for black people in the southern states. It didn't stop Martin Luther King or the mass movement from challenging that. So we start from what we need as workers and as trade unions. The second point of debate that came up was about who we target, and at the General Council the argument was made that actually our audience in this is 300 plus Tory MPs, and we've got to try and see if we can convince the more reasonable ones, if there are any, of the values of what trade unions bring to society. Completely the wrong starting point. We have 6.5 million workers in trade unions, and our first port of call is those members. Because if we convince them of the need to fight, then actually we force the Tories to start listening to us. And the third point of disagreement was about whether our aim is simply to win some minor concessions, or our aim is to stop the Tories in their tracks and defeat them, and if necessary defy and defeat this bill if it becomes law. And that again raises the question of how we do that. And I'll finish on a couple of points on this, because those debates will take place at the TUC General Council, and it reflects the pressure of the movement. But don't rely on the TUC General Council to organise such a movement. In 1971 and 72 we saw a mass movement that did defeat anti-union legislation after it came in. But it was organised from the bottom up. It was organised because we had strong shop stewards movements across the country who organised in defence, and ultimately unlawful, potentially unlawful strikes. But the scale of that movement forced the Tories at that point to retreat and move back. So that's the sort of agenda that we've got to set out for ourselves today. And I'll finish on this point. We've seen a political earthquake, and Corbyn has correctly described it as that, a political earthquake over the summer, where the right wing of the Labour Party dreamed up this bizarre voting system, thinking that it would defeat the left forever in the Labour Party. And you could have got 400 to 1 if you put money on it at the start of this, and we didn't. We supported him, funded him, and political, practical support. We didn't put any money in the bookies. Who would have thought it, including in Jeremy's camp? That reflects underneath a huge groundswell of hostility and opposition to what all those in the leadership to the main political parties have told us for 30 years, that you can't change things, you can't do anything. Well, that is, and it also gives us in the trade union movement a unique opportunity, because someone who is unapologetically proud of being a trade unionist, unapologetically stands up for trade unions, for the first time in recent political history, is leading the way by absolutely astounding. But we need to be aware there is going to be a campaign to undermine him and defeat him, including from within the Labour Party, including, unfortunately, from within the trade unions. That's already underway. And again, the only way we will make progress is if we wake up to the scale of what's happened, the scale of the attacks, and the scale of the opportunities that are before us. And if we build a genuine democratic mass movement of the left that fights to defend Corbyn against those attacks, but fights to defend our movement and our people against the attacks of this government, and sets out the agenda that actually, for the first time in a generation, we have the possibility of fundamentally shifting the political debate to the left in our favour and actually changing things.